I'd rather go live than go. Hello. 126, exactly the second I wanted to come on. Hello. Oh my God. So what the hell is going on in Australia? Australia, down by the Barbie. Throw some koala bears on the Barbie. Well, it seems a state in Australia is creating a ministry to control men's behavior because obviously there's such a widespread problem with evil men. Now, you see, you even mention this stuff, and immediately the feminazis, you want women to get beat up. No, I don't. I don't want violence of any sort. Unless you're threatened by somebody trying to do violence to you, then, hey, that's the way it is. No, I don't advocate for women or men or children with violence, no. So believe whatever you want. Maybe go to a different channel or something, because I don't know what the hell to say to you, right? But the facts are there to see. Now, what we have here, we got a bunch of women who have been told that every man is evil, every man's an R word, every man's a B, and you get the and right? They've been told that for fucking decades. Oh, the statistics don't bear that out, hamster. It doesn't fucking matter. Because otherwise, if people were rational, looked at statistics and said, okay, here's a problem over here. Let's do something to solve that. Yeah? Like, I don't know, domestic violence shelters, pass laws making it illegal, shit like that. Oh, we've done all that. Okay. So what is the scope of the problem, and why do we have to have a ministry to control men? Sounds like a fembot idea to me. Go.
Australia has a new kind of ministry of man control.
I mean,
I kid you not. This is not something.
This is Australia, for God's sake. It's Crocodile Dundee, Paul Hogan and freaking Mad Max and shit. Australia, allegedly there was a time where Australia was considered to be like America, just 50 years behind. Now they're catching up here with this nonsense. Oh, God. Go on, sir.
Of a dystopian George Orwell novel. It's actually real. I can't even believe I'm reporting this, but it's true. This country has lost its freaking mind.
Excuse me, mate. Maybe not you, but your media in Australia, around the Western world, the United States, have been reporting that 1 or 2 or 3 out of 5 women will be R-worded. It's bullshit. This is propaganda. This is the crap they've been told. You ask a college kid, a new one, fresh one, like 21, 22, just graduated. They're going to think that the world is the most dangerous fucking place for a woman, especially in the West, because of evil men and shit. It's not. It's crazy. This is how the Marxists and the world whatevers play the fucking game. It's always been the goal to separate men and women, divide and conquer. Go on.
Of Victoria, Jacinta Allen, has announced a new parliamentary role in the Victorian government.
Okay, apparently this person's name is Jacinta. Here's a maybe a suggestion for our friends down under. Never elect anyone with the name Jacinta. Just don't do it, man. Not even once.
Change men's behaviour.
Okay.
She has appointed Tim Richardson, MP, the member for Mordialloc, as the inaugural parliamentary secretary for men's behaviour change.
Did you hear this, guys? Did you hear that? Yeah, let's try it again. Go ahead.
She has appointed Tim Richardson, MP, the member for Mordialloc, as the inaugural parliamentary secretary for men's behaviour change.
All men, right? Because we're all evil. That's what these people think. My God, man. What's coming in?
Let me just hit you with that one more time.
Yes.
The parliamentary secretary, this is what it's called, for men's behavior change.
Yes.
To that, I can only say it's time for government to
Fuck off.
right off.
Mm-hmm.
In announcing the role, Allen said it's, quote, the first position of its kind to exist in Australia.
Yeah. Actually, probably in the entire fucking world. Oh, the Aussies are on top of this one.
Yeah, that's right. Because we used to be a free country that believed in...
Mate. Oh, mate. Get some poison frogs on the barbie.
Small government, and that government has absolutely no place, quote, managing people's behavior.
I mean, didn't you, sir, I don't know who you are, and I'm not trying to slam you here. Don't you recall during the coup that people were put in frickin' concentration camps in Australia if they refused the Jabberino? Got it. Did you think this is new that they're trying to? It's not. It's not new.
Let's hope it's the last position of its kind in Australia, because this is an obscenity.
Well, it's not a concentration camp. It's just a quarantine center where you're not allowed to leave in armed guards and shit and barbed wire. Yeah. Well, it's for your own good. It's for your own good. Well, now it's for your own good, boys. We need the government to tell us to not beat our wives, girlfriends, children, family, and not kill people. Okay. Yeah. Well, that counts for about 99% of men. We're good. We're not doing that. But you are, because that's what they told me in school. That's what the feminist classes taught me.
And I hope the good men of the great state of Victoria
Christ.
rise up, rally, and march against this hideous new bureaucracy. The Premier says it's part of her government's commitment to, quote, make Victoria a safer place for women.
For women and children. How about for men? You know, if there's a violent crime problem in Victoria, shouldn't we include, I don't know, the other half of the population? No, of course not. Because they're all perpetrators and all women and children, and everybody else is the victim, don't you know, at the hands of the evil mans. We're going to do something about that, bro.
And children. There's the warning sign, folks. The socialists are keeping us safe again. Whenever they're keeping us safe, if it means taking more power for themselves, we have to be very, very careful.
Oh, you think it's a power trip, do you? Do you? Good call.
Our socialists do it, not by force, but through kindness and safety and looking after you and infantilizing us and parenting us.
Yep.
Allen says it's to, quote, stop the tragedy of deaths of Victorian women at the hands of men.
I mean, who would disagree with that? Who would disagree that we want to get fewer or no women killed at the hands of... Yes. That sounds like a great idea. So why don't you concentrate on the men that are doing these dastardly deeds? And not every Aussie man, who 99% of them are not doing this. You see, this is a fucking power grab. This is how they do it. Well, here's the here's the problem. There's a certain population over here that's raging alcoholics and they beat their wives, but we can't say that because, well, they might not be white. So we have to, find a way to blame the white man. Got it.
My God. This is not the role of government in any liberal democracy.
Yeah, well, we're rapidly going away from anything called democracy.
She says, this is not easy work, but it's important, and we can't afford not to address it and waste a moment.
I see.
A couple of weeks ago on the show, we shared the very good news that rates of domestic homicide have actually plummeted in Australia since 1989. Here's a quick recap of that data. Actual.
Yes. Rates have plummeted. Perfect. Excellent. Good job, Australia.
Data and facts from the National Institute of Criminology. This is the rate of homicides in Australia per 100,000 people from 1989 on the left of the chart to 2023 on the right. Back in 1989, you had a 1.8 in 100,000 chance of being murdered in this country.
I like the way it's trending down. Down is good. I wonder how the men are doing, though. Well, let's find out.
Today, it's less than half that. Half. That's massive, and we should be celebrating it.
Yeah.
But what about domestic violence-related homicide? What about intimate partner homicide, the radical feminists?
Yes. What about that?
Feminists will argue. Surely that's gone up. We all know that. Well, actually, no. Homicides are classified into domestic, meaning an intimate partner, a relative, or someone living with you. Acquaintance, meaning someone you know not living with you. And a stranger. This chart shows all three types. And the rates from 1989 to 2023 for each type. The dark green line is domestic. The light green line is acquaintance. They have both dropped massively since 1989.
Yes.
The rate of domestic homicide in 2022-23 was 0.3. And the acquaintance homicide rate decreased to 0.24, the lowest since 1989, when it was 2.5 times that. As you can see from the grey line at the bottom, the type of homicide that hasn't dropped is stranger homicide. And the victims of stranger homicide...
Excuse me. What are you about to say, sir?
Are significantly mostly men.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Uh-oh. What are we going to do now?
Stranger homicide are significantly mostly men. It's probably the gender of the victims. That must be where women victims are on the rise.
Of course.
Oh, no, that's also falling. Most victims of homicide in Australia are still male. In 2023, male victims were 69% of homicides.
But it was still men.
Out of the 232 murders overall. That puts the male victim rate at 1.29 per 100,000, and the female rate is at 0.56, well less than half. And over...
Okay, so a half a chance per 100,000 people. So 1 in 200,000 are going to be murdered, and that's horrible. That's horrible. Absolutely. But again, when you look at this Marxist bullshit, they're always looking at utopia, perfection. They don't understand an asymptotic approach. You're never going to get to zero. It's just not going to happen. There's always a small percentage of people who are fucked up in the head, and they're going to do stupid shit. And it's unfortunate. And I agree. I would like to see zero. It's not going to happen. 1 in 200,000, still too much. But we're never going to get to zero. Hate to tell you. Even with a minister of men's behavior.
There's more really good news. Since 1989, the rate of male victimization halved, and the rate of female homicide victimization decreased by more than half at 58%.
Good.
So all this good news is just getting a bit too much. How will we demonize men in Australia now if they're the ones getting murdered more and the murder rates are all dropping? So that was from our episode 311 about a month ago, wearing the same tie, in fact.
Good question.
What do you know? And joining me now to answer that question about how they're going to demonize men now is well-known and long-time men's rights activist Bettina Arndt. Bettina, it is great to have you on the other side. Thanks for joining us.
Oh my God, look at this Nazi. How could they?
Good to be here, David.
So, how are they going to demonize men if this number keeps going down? It seems as though the commentators are detached from actual reality and actual...
They are detached from reality, sir. That's exactly what they are.
Data. So we're being brainwashed in a way or sold a lie.
Oh, the data doesn't matter. I mean, we have the best feminists, the most powerful feminists in the world.
Right.
They've got all our institutions absolutely sewed up, dancing to their tune, and any data that comes out, they totally ignore that goes against, if it goes against the narrative.
If it's good, think about this. Think about this for a minute. You got feminazis in Australia are sad when things get better. It makes them angry. What kind of fucked up do you have to be when the rates of violent crime are going down almost everywhere? The rates of R-word, right? Since 1990, United States have plummeted. But they're still not happy, and they're pissed. Now, why would you be pissed about good news? Well, because if your movement isn't needed, you need to pick up your toys and go home, don't you? Do you get my point? I think you guys do. Go on.
I noticed in the last week, 2 women have stabbed their partners. One of them killed him, and the other one's fighting for his life. Have you seen that mentioned in our media? No.
So has the Victorian Premier Jacinda Allen set up a solution to a problem that doesn't exist here, and an abhorrent, horrible solution at that, right?
Yeah, this idea of a minister for changing men's behaviour.
Obviously, this guy's he's fucking Adolf.
What's a parliamentary secretary, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what a joke. There is nothing wrong with men's behaviour in Australia. We have a tiny, tiny group of men who have a problem with violence.
Yes. So why don't we do something to address that? No. Let's demonize all men. Gee, I wonder if there's a different sort of goal behind all of this. Anyone? Bueller? Mm-hmm.
In fact, our official data shows that less than 1%, it's about 1% of women report physical violence from their partner or ex-partner. 1%. That means 99% of men are not physically violent towards their partner. And yet you never hear that. That statistic is well and truly buried in our ABS data. And no one ever talks about that, of course, because they're so good at promoting this idea that it's a problem across the board, that all men are dangerous.
It's a massive problem. All men are just going to be violent and kill everybody. So you have to think of it that way. But it's not true. We don't care. My feelings. I mean, God.
Boys have to be ashamed of being male, and so as it goes on.
Is there anything like this anywhere else in the world?
Did you guys ever see that one middle school or elementary school in Australia where they had a lyceum and they demanded the boys get up and apologize for rape to the girls? We're sorry. We're so evil. It's like, I didn't do anything. These are 12-year-old kids, right? And these kids these young men are like, well, I didn't do anything. Why should I apologize for something I didn't? Exactly, young man. You didn't do it. Most men never do it. Go on.
World, as far as you know, like one of these sort of parliamentary secretaries or, organized bureaucracies to change men's behavior?
No, I actually checked out that last night because it's a big organization, an international organization, bringing together about 130 groups internationally, looking at trying to change the dialogue around domestic violence. And they said, never heard of anything like this before. I was actually on a podcast with some Americans yesterday, and I said, don't worry about the spiders and the poisonous snakes. Our feminists are the ones you have to worry about in Australia.
Well, no, they're more poison than any other fucking scorpion or snake or goddamn toxic weapon. They're poisoning and destroying the West. I think we're there, right? Yeah, we get that. Go ahead.
God, yeah.
Really dangerous. Yeah.
It is truly frightening. I mean, to think that North Korea, Iran, these places would never think of doing this, and yet in Australia we've got this thing that I've reported on a lot of crazy stuff on this show for the last couple of years, but this has really floored me. Just how incredibly frightening.
It's a part of a very carefully constructed narrative where we've got little boys being shamed in schools, being told they need, to do something about their toxic masculinity, and on it goes right throughout our workplaces, everywhere. This constant demonization of men.
So it doesn't seem like we can appease this much longer, Bettina. Men have been very passive in sort of, fighting this or speaking out. We don't want to be accused of being sexist, so we've
exactly. Yeah, you can't even criticize. No. Oh my God, you're obviously a misogynist and a hater. No, it's about time men put their feet down and say, what are you talking about? With our tax dollars, we're funding shelters. We're funding the court system, to get these men that abuse women and put them in fucking jail. What more do you want? Oh, no. We want all men to be fucking seen as perpetrators and evil and toxic, especially the white guys, right? How in the fuck did we allow this to happen?
Behaved ourselves up until now. But are we at a point now, do you think, where men in Australia need to actually get mobilized and organized? And, you know, I was talking about maybe we need to see the Victorian men rallying in the streets and marching. I'm not kidding when I say that. I mean, I think we need to do something, right?
Yeah, nobody cares, though. That's the problem. That's the powerlessness. That's the fuck that you hear from men. Nobody gives a fuck. You know, if aliens came down to Australia, says, excuse me, you have a what? The ministry for what? They would like, what the fuck? We wonder why they're not here. It's like, what are you kidding? Here are the statistics, right? In alien speak, 99.99% of men do not murder their freaking partners. Doesn't happen. Doesn't matter. All men are to be demonized. We're all evil.
Yeah, no, because I understand how difficult it is. I have people contact me every day saying, you know, it's all very well for you, not, you know, an old granny. I mean, I can get away with it. But men lose their jobs, and they seriously do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked
they do.
people doing psychology.
We've been screaming about Me Too for how long now? 7 years. Somebody points a finger, gone. Yo, that's reasonable, isn't it?
People doing law, whatever it is, if they speak out and tell the truth about issues like domestic violence, they won't pass their courses.
Yeah. Facts and logic. Oh no, my fifis, my feelings.
They'll lose their jobs. They won't get promotions. You know, that's the reality in Australia.
Well, they don't get the jobs in the first place. I mean,
That's what they do. That is how they work the system. And when I say they, the world communists or whoever the fuck it is, this is how they do it.
Seriously bad way. We can no longer really call ourselves a free country in that sense. But I mean, men are just going to have to braven up, aren't we? Going to have to be a little bit more courageous. And
it doesn't matter. That's the frustration, guy. That's the frustration. Let's go down to another one here. Go ahead.
Some might call us anglers.
Yes, do some
optimists.
Someone has dusted off this like George Orwell draft of 1984 that even he went, well, that no one's going to buy this. It's too unbelievable. It's too dark. I don't really expect anything less from Victorian government at this point.
Is Victoria the state capital area, or is that Queensland? I don't know.
Hello and welcome to The View from 22. I'm John Connolly, the Spectator's news editor. I'm going to be talking today about a rather curious announcement from Victoria, Australia. They've announced they're going to be putting in place a minister for changing men's behaviour. Joining me to discuss this is Terry Barnes, a contributor to Spectator UK and Spectator Oz, and Sal Grover, CEO and founder of the women-only app Giggle, which is currently at the forefront of a legal battle over trans rights in Australia.
Giggle. Okay. All right.
As I mentioned there in the intro, the state of Victoria in Australia has just introduced a new minister for changing men's behaviour. Terry, can you tell us a bit about the position and what it involves?
Well, I'd like to tell you, John, but basically we don't know other than the title. Basically, the Premier of Victoria, a hard-left socialist Labor Premier named Jacinta Allen, has announced that there will
be a shocker. She's a chick, and she's a hard left socialist. Who would have ever guessed?
Be a minister or a parliamentary secretary, a junior minister for men's behaviour change. And beyond that, she says, well, we've got to look at men's behaviour and basically do something about the toxic nature of male behaviour and the risks it poses to women and children, and particularly.
Here's the approach, though. It's the shotgun approach. Every man is toxic. Every man. So we have to have a ministry to tell them how to behave among the women, because reasons.
We've had a spate in Australia since the beginning of the year of, sadly, domestic violence-related deaths and murders. And I think that's galvanised the Premier.
Don't let them pull this trick on you guys. The trick is simple. Well, but what about, well, you must be in favor of violence against women, and you're a misogynist, and you're Nazis, and no. I understand there's a separation here. I don't want that, but this is not the solution to solve that. You understand my point? No, you're a goddamn Nazi. You're probably a wife beater. Excuse me, hamster. When did you stop beating your wife? That kind of bullshit, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, however, it's really a clickbait gimmick, isn't it? I mean, all we know is that the government has decided that it knows best, that it will actually create a job for a junior minister to tell men how to behave. But it doesn't really solve the problems of domestic violence in this country.
Of course it doesn't, because it doesn't fucking matter. They're not trying to solve problems. They're just trying to grab power. Oh, my God in heaven. Hello.
It doesn't deal with the fact that that women as well as men are perpetrators of domestic violence, and it goes to the feminist myth.
Impossible. Women are never, ever. They're always victims. Don't you? Oh, my God. This guy probably has a white hood. You know what I'm saying? Burning crosses and shit. Yeah, yeah, of course.
That all men are basically perpetrators in waiting. They're violence machines waiting to spring their behaviour on unsuspecting women, partners, children, and so on. And it's just wrong. It's just crazy.
I mean, just even walking out on the street. Oh, there's a chick over. Let's go beat her up and kill her. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Oh my God in heaven.
But what it's doing, John, is trivializing a very serious social issue.
Yes.
Sal, what was your reaction when you first heard about the position?
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a parody Twitter account. I thought it was a joke. And then I found out that it was real. And every time stuff like this happens, we're all thinking the same thing. We're like, oh, someone has dusted off this like George Orwell draft of 1984 that even he went, well, that no one's going to buy this. It's too unbelievable. It's too dark. And then they're going, well, we'll give it the old college try. I don't really expect anything less from Victorian government at this point. They are, I mean, in a strong field of ridiculous governments in Australia, they do kind of
they're at the top of the heap there, I guess.
Are the most ridiculous. So anytime you're going to see the most ridiculous policy, if your instinct is, oh, it's come from Victoria, you're usually right.
I mean, Sal, to play devil's advocate slightly, I mean, I presume the head of Victoria would say, oh, well, you know, disproportionately the amount of violence against women is from men. Maybe we do need to change men's behavior. Do you kind of agree with that at all?
Yeah, but this is why definitions and language are really important.
Yes, sweetie. Yes, that's why we have to define things correctly. What exactly do you mean by that? Go on.
Talking about different issues. So, first of all, what is a man? I mean, these terms aren't even defined in law. So are they creating a policy that any man, or even a sort of a part of government that any man can actually identify out of? The Libertarian candidate, as MP David Limbrick, did a great tweet in response to it, saying, okay, if you want to look at men's behavior, what about these men? And it was trans activists in Melbourne just a week ago threatening women who were speaking about women's rights. So is it?
Yeah, are those men violent? Oh, no, excuse me. No. See, here's the dealio. Here's the old dealio. Only white men are violent.
We're going to need some definitions here. Now, in terms of talking about domestic violence, I actually think domestic violence is the wrong framework to talk about it, to have an honest conversation, because you have male violence against women. And if we're having a conversation about male violence against women, that is what we're talking about. If we're talking about any sort of female violence or abuse against men, then that's what we're talking about. But they are actually two really separate issues.
Yeah, we never talk about that other thing, do we? Strange, isn't it?
One of them is much more frequent. One of them not as frequent. Not to diminish it, but they are separate issues. So to put them together in this like domestic and family violence, even when they call it family violence, I think by the time you're in this violent situation, this is not family. The family unit is so broken that it's wrong to do that. So I understand that there are people who are trying to find solutions to this really, really complex problem. But I think assigning an Orwellian change men's behavior secretary could not be the worst way. Like, you couldn't think of a worse way to do it than to do it that way. I do agree with what Terry is saying.
Okay.
That there is a huge danger in telling, especially like young boys and young men, that just being men is bad. That actually can create a situation as they grow older of hostility and animosity that can create violence.
I mean, really, if you think about it, the surprise, and thank God it's the case, that men aren't more violent. With all of this fucking bullshit going on, the Me Too and this, and now the Minister of Truth here, men apparently can take a lot of shit. But it's starting to get right near the edge. It's like, no, no more. No, this is enough. Go on.
Being a man is not inherently a bad thing. Men are 50% of the population. And we like men to be protectors. We like them to be strong. There's lots of brilliant male traits. What we're talking about is predators.
Yes, very small percentage of the population. So how do we address that? That's the big question. Don't demonize all men. Demonize the ones that are doing bad things. Rapists and killers and shit like that. Child molesters. How do we smoke them out and take care of the problem? That's a hard one, isn't it? Yes. So instead of doing that, we'll just demonize all men and call them all killers and shit.
And then specifically in this context, male predators. If there's like an issue of females doing it, that's a different conversation, I think.
Count because women obviously always victims, and she did it for a reason.
I think it's wrong to confuse the two because they are very different issues.
Yeah, Terry, I want to bring you in on Sal's last point there, which is, what kind of message do you think this sends to young men growing up? I mean, you can't quite imagine it being done about any other demographic, can you? I mean, seeing a minister for women's changing women's behavior, for example.
Yeah, could you imagine the ministry for changing women's behavior, or the ministry for changing this behavior or that behavior? Nothing would go. It wouldn't fly. It would be tossed out as sexist, racist. But the ministry for changing, let's be honest, white men's behavior, no problem. Not a problem at all.
Example.
Got it.
Well, they did actually appoint a bloke to be the minister for changing men's behaviour. But really, look, I think it sends a really bad message. It's basically saying, as I was saying before, that men are perpetrators in waiting, that they're inherently toxic, they're inherently dangerous, they're inherently nasty and feral, simply by the fact that they have a certain set of chromosomes. And look, I think no man is perfect, and I should know.
I mean, nobody's perfect. But the vast majority of men don't beat up their kids and kill their wives. I mean, it's just not happening. Everyone knows that with half a brain in your head. We love our kids and our wives and our girlfriends and shit. What the fuck? Where are these people coming from?
My wife would certainly tell you. And we all struggle with relationships. We all struggle with moments that we really get stressed. And
I mean, why aren't we sitting here? This is echoes of Me Too, isn't it? Well, there's some evil people like Harvey Weinstein and all these other fucking people. So the entire population of men. Do we not understand? This is all predicated, built upon the Me Too thing. And here we are again. And even Harvey Weinstein, he's a scumbag. We all know that. His conviction got overturned. Well, obviously we live in a rape culture. So what would you expect? Right?
might overreact in the wrong way. But it's important, I think, to accept that most men are decent, honourable people who try and do the right thing by...
I mean, why do we even have to say this? Sir, yeah, no offense. Of course we are. What the fuck? Well, you know, hey, by the way, most men are decent and they're not going to kill their kids and their wives. No shit. Really?
Women and children around them who try and do the right thing by society as a whole in terms of their behaviour, and who frankly find relationship violence, domestic violence, call it what you will, they find it repugnant, absolutely repugnant. And if they struggle against their own instincts, that's a very natural and decent thing to do. And men are based...
I have no instinct to go and beat my wife up. What the fuck are you even talking about, bro? I know you're trying to walk the fence. You're probably a politician here. But the vast majority of men have no concept that they want to go beat their wives up and kill their children. What the fuck? That's nonsense. But here we are, even the politician, the posh man.
Basically decent. Women are basically decent too. Actually,
yes.
As this gimmick has done, is to trivialise it, but also to really play to the same old feminist narrative in terms of women are all good, men are all bad. And I don't think that helps anybody at all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, there was one more I was going to do here. Let me see if I can find it. Might have to go back. Oh my God. Oh no. Hold on here. It's right here. Sure.
Australia has a new kind of...
War on men. Total government misinformation. How about that? Boom, boom.
Get on a nice boat with your friends is the best. When guys are catching fish all together, it's even more rewarding.
Right.
I know how I feel when I catch a fish, but when my friends catch fish too, I see the excitement on their face, and
You know what I like besides catching fish? I like eating them. Yummy. They're still healthy and good for you.
In this episode, a new semi-regular segment on the channel. I'm calling it, working title, Official Misinformation.
Okay.
Because our government keeps telling us that we need protecting from misinformation, while at the same time spewing the nation's leading producer of it. And we need this protection because we're all obviously children and can't possibly be trusted with uncensored internet access, clearly. Today, the Prime Minister and his misinformational positions stated just last week on violence against women.
Okay, well, this is the first time to this channel, so let me put the linky in the thingy. So go check this guy out. It sounds like he might be fun. Oh my God, he's a Nazi. He's a Nazi. Obviously.
I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, new cars cheap, but Australia only website. Now, fair warning, okay? No automotive content in this one, and the jokes are going to be thin and few on the ground, right? By virtue of the nature of this confronting subject.
Prime Minister has declared domestic violence a national crisis.
Incidentally, I just checked, okay? I am still a man, notionally. I got independent verification, which was quite the relief. I'm a white, 60-year-old male.
Oh my God, you're evil. You're toxic, and the women are afraid of you. Oh my God.
So, pretty much right in the feminist crosshairs here.
Yeah.
Kevlar vest, here we come.
He's now ordered an emergency meeting of National Cabinet to address the sickening rise in domestic murders across the country.
Sickening rise in domestic violence, really.
Right.
There's no long-term evidence for this. In fact, society has never been safer in Australia.
We don't need no stinking evidence, man, you old fart, you.
Individual instances of violence are obviously horrific at times, and they're always regrettable if there's an alternative. But society is safe, and it's getting safer for everyone. In a population of 27 million people, all kinds of violence is going to occur. And you can pretty much cherry pick horrific incidents if you like.
And that's what they do. Sir, please continue. I'm going to get some beers.
Which is, of course, what the mainstream media does to make its content compelling. We men are all expected to feel somehow guilty by association, like, you toxic bastard. Collective guilt based on nothing but your chromosomes. I am dead set sick of this. This repulsive news report and the hysteria in it is simply not what the official data shows. Up front, however, let me speak for average dudes presumptuously by saying that if you are a man and you are violent to women, you are both a scumbag and a criminal. It really is that simple. Everyone I know thinks that.
Excuse me.
But if you are...
I saw a bunch of chicks bitching, so we got to go back to that, don't we? Oh, there's a bunch of women complaining about what
the mainstream media does to make its content compelling. We men are...
Man's violence has to go. Yeah, I agree. So what are we going to do? Let's solve that problem. All men are toxic. That's your solution. Oh, God in heaven, go.
All expected to feel somehow guilty by association. Like,
right.
You toxic bastard. Collective guilt based on nothing but your chromosomes. I am dead set sick of this. This repulsive news report and the hysteria in it is simply not what the official data shows. Up front, however, let me speak for average dudes presumptuously by saying that if you are a man and you are violent to women, you are both a scumbag and a criminal. It really is that simple.
Absolutely, and no one disagrees. No one. Wait. That's it. There you go.
Everyone I know thinks that. But if you are in the vast majority
now, excuse me, sir, if I might interrupt here a little bit. You know, it wasn't that many decades ago where, say a boyfriend or husband was really abusing the girl. The family would take care of that. You know what I'm saying? Just saying.
Of men who are not committing these crimes and have no...
But now we don't have men in our lives, so we have to rely on the government to do it. And so what do? Let's get a ministry of fucking men's behavior. Because that's going to solve it.
Intention too, you are in no way responsible for them.
We want the government to acknowledge that this is a national emergency.
This is not a national emergency.
Nope. But any cause, sir, any cause they can find to take more and more power is sufficient. Never let a crisis or so-called crisis go to waste. Know what I'm saying, sir?
The reduction in so-called intimate partner homicide over the past 30 years is actually...
You're spewing facts, and facts are misogyny.
A triumph for our safe society, which is, of course, why nobody reports it. Everyone harks on about bias in the media, right?
Yeah.
And having worked in it for 30 freaking years, I can tell you that the three top biases affecting the mainstream media are not the biases you think they are.
No.
It's the predisposition to laziness, sensationalism, and conflict.
In Canberra, the march was to Parliament House, where the Prime Minister told the crowd,
and this is a national crisis.
Slightly less shit Scott Morrison is a clown. Personal opinion. His statements on this are...
I like this guy. I don't know who he is, but I'm going to start watching his shit. This is good. Sergeant Grinch is here. Hello. Sharzanabal, Seraphim. Oh my God, Ramadi is here. Who else is here? Michelle Guevara from France. And Lanny. and me, and me. Of course, I'm here. I don't know who this guy is. Did I put the link in? I like what he's saying. Go on, you old fart.
Complete misinformation. He's either an idiot or a bullshitter or both.
Probably both. I would lean toward the idiot part.
The facts simply do not support this contention.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, sir. So please present the facts that even a stupid feminazi would understand.
He has a whole government department called the
Radical Rafters. Oh my God, all the good people are here.
Australian Institute of Criminology, right? You, the taxpayer, you pay them to monitor homicide nationally. They've done this nationally since 1990. That's not all they do, obviously, but they have done it for 3 and a bit decades. It's more than 3 decades of hard national homicide data. And I think we can all agree that homicide is a pretty good barometer of violence in society.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad deal when you're killing people. I would agree with that.
Generally. And this is in part because it's so easy to measure and the data is so reliable. Thanks to death being an absolute, and homicide is a legal thing, right? So there's a standard against which it is measured. There's no problem with the data, no fuzzy edges. Other kinds of violence are quite fuzzy around the edges when you drill down into the granular detail.
Oh my God, he's a rape apologist. He's evil.
Some people, for example, currently argue that words can be violent. But I would suggest that 2 people arguing about how to stack the freaking dishwasher is not worthy of inclusion into the data underpinning this debate. And it is quite difficult for me, at least, to see a society where violence is up, but murder is way down.
It heartens me, makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside that there are men out here in Australia that talk real shit, real reality. I love this guy. I don't know who he is, but I love him.
Homicide is a good way to track violence generally, I'd suggest. In any case, I think we can all agree that homicide is the worst form of one-on-one violence. If I were Albo, I probably would have consulted the government department whom I authorize to monitor all of this data before shooting from the freaking hip and declaring an entirely good societal story a national crisis.
It doesn't matter, kind sir. It doesn't matter. Facts are irrelevant. Do I have to keep saying it? Yes, facts are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the revolution. Go on.
Thus doing the population a monumental disservice.
And this is a national crisis.
Do you think they care about the, excuse me, do you think they care about the population? They only care about the population to get elected. They don't give a fuck. Are you kidding? You know that, sir. I'm sorry. Let's listen to him talk for a while.
Doesn't make it true. This is exactly the kind of epic misinformation that he claims to be against. According to the government's own Criminology Institute, for the past 3 decades, all homicide is down. For most of the 90s, homicide was running in the early 300s nationally every year. For the past decade, early 200s, that is total homicide in Australia. I'll put links to all of these data sets in the description. So,
yeah, 200 or 300 people get murdered in Chicago every weekend. What? Okay, yeah. Go ahead. Oh, I guess it's John Cadigan. John Cadigan, auto expert. Go to his channel. I like this guy. And why does my mouse keep ending up in the wrong place? Go ahead.
So you can verify them at your leisure and see that I am not bullshitting you here. Now, this is a pretty solid reduction from 300s to 200s. Great. But it's made...
Ian Blades is here. A wee break from work, eh? Oh, like, it's Saturday. Why are you working? You should be drinking, man. Come on.
Even better when you consider that the population was only 17 million back in 1990, and it's more like 27 million now. Roughly six.
Seraphim, of course, abortion is infanticide. We all know that. So thank you for putting the links in. Of course. It's the way that women get out of their stupid fucking decisions. And we have to have a consequence-free life for women, of course, obviously.
60% more people, but 30% less homicide. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well done, Australia. If you want to get real about this and compensate for the difference in population, to quantify it properly, you just take the number of homicides and you divide it by the number of people. Usually you do it by the number of 100,000 people to better.
Excuse me, Blades. It's 2:18 here, so you're about 6 hours ahead. The hell are you doing? Working at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday? Oh my God. SATURDAY night. Yeah. They were from Scotland, by the way.
Manage the position of the decimal point, but it's the same thing. You get a properly comparable homicide rate. It's killed people per 100,000 in the population. Okay. And FYI, they also do this with the road death statistics.
That's
so
so
that you can compare, say, 1970, which was utterly terrible, to today, which is also a very good news story. So here it is. The Australian Institute of Criminology homicide rate, 1990 to 2021. Obviously, over on the right-hand edge of those curves, the pandemic really didn't help.
I didn't know you were a chef, Blades. Cool. What you cooking tonight, bro? Some Scottish pasty. What is that? What is that Scottish thing with the sheep guts in there? Oh, yeah, whatever that is. Yeah.
People were stressed. But the long-term trend here is absolutely undeniable. 1.8 homicides per 100,000 people has fallen to 0.8 in 3 decades.
Yeah.
That's a 56% reduction in the rate of homicides in this country. That's something I feel we should all be riffing air guitar over.
Yeah, here's the problem, though, sir. The Marxists don't look at this as a win. Yeah. They want it to go up. See, if you just put us in charge, and we would solve all this problem, and they never do. You would think the feminazis, as I've mentioned before, they'd be happy with the reduction of assaults on women since 1990. No, it's not. They don't like it.
Homicide.
Imagine what I'm saying. It's just, that's crazy, isn't it? These Marxist freaking whatever revolutionaries, they want it to go up. Imagine if you would. Just think about that. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
Deaths per 100,000 in America. 7.5, according to the Centers for Disease Control over there.
Yeah, we're a bunch of murderous fucks up here.
7.5 there, 0.8 here.
Yeah.
That's almost 10 times higher in America.
Yeah.
Almost 6 of those 7.5 homicides per 100,000 people are gun related. So, dear America, gun control works, dudes. The freedom to bear arms is in the Constitution, but it's actually a freedom to be killed a lot more often.
Excuse me. John Cadigan. I have a bunch of, I used to have a bunch of stuff in my closet until the aliens came down and took it to Uranus. But the whole time that stuff was in my closet, that gun never jumped out and shot anybody, ever. So I know you have a misapprehension, a misinterpretation of what's going on in America. But you hear a lot of, there's a lot of people murdered by guns. Yeah, who do you think is wielding the gun? You think it's me? You think it's the average dude or woman? wants to protect themselves from bad guys? Or is it the fucking drug gangs and thugs and criminals? I guess I'll leave that to you to decide, sir.
But frankly, even if you take the gun homicides out of the frame here, the American homicide rate is still roughly double ours. Overall.
Is that per capita or what? Because after all, you said, oh, by the way, we've got 27 million people in Australia. Well, sir, we have 350 million people in America. So is it per capita or is it, could be a lot more since we have a lot more people. Just saying. Chris Mitchell, the pizza doctor, is in the building from British Columbia.
America is just
Canadian, eh? How you doing?
A far more violent society.
We need to change the culture. We need to...
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. But again, there's a very small segment of the population that goes out and slaughters people every weekend. It ain't me. It ain't us. There's drugs and there's gangs and there's violence and there's the fucking reds and the blues and whatever the fuck, right? Vast majority of Americans, we don't go out and shoot each other. It's not happening. It's the criminals that are doing that kind of shit. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
Change attitudes.
No, we don't. Our culture is fine. And we could always do better, certainly.
Yeah,
and there are individual abhorrent tragedies in any large population, obviously. But we already have a very safe society for both women and men.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Yeah.
And it's getting safer. That is the clear, established long-term trend. This is a fact. I would argue that the median man in Australia has nothing whatsoever to apologize for in respect.
Yeah, we have 13 times the people. You're right. And so what is his stat? Is it per capita or is it overall? Right. I mean, if the murder rate in the United States is 13 times that of Australia, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Because we have 13 times the population.
Aspect of this bullshit cultural claim by...
Yeah, we're all good, Chris. Always good to see you there, boss. The Emperor of Canada is in the building.
The PM. We don't collectively conspire to murder our partners.
Yeah, no.
I've never been invited to one of those meetings, and neither have you.
Yeah.
You are now looking at the official graph from the government department that you pay to monitor all of this homicide data, detailing 3 decades of so-called intimate partner homicide, broken down into female and male victims.
Yeah, that's terrible. Who is disagreeing with that? No, it's fine that women are getting... Nobody fucking says that. And I'm not saying this man is saying, oh, you fucking Americans. But that's what the feminazis in fucking Victoria, Australia, are saying. Oh, it's all men. It's all men. No, it's not. This is not a good solution to the problem. That's what we're saying. This is not the solution. You know what the fucking solution is. You just don't want to, follow that solution because it might not involve white men. Do I have to say it again? Go on.
Per 100,000 population. Female victims on the top, male victims below. Obviously, in an ideal world, nobody would ever die on the road or of misadventure or at work or at the hand of anyone else, intimate to them or otherwise.
Right.
And every one of these deaths is individually a tragedy to someone, of course. But that's 3 decades of official data. Intimate partner homicide. There is only one conclusion, and I suspect that most morons could draw it after even a cursory look.
Well, I mean, it's obviously John Cadigan. Our politicians are fucking morons and they can't figure this out. Same.
But our PM is in a class of his own, unfortunately, seemingly.
Yeah.
The most profound reduction is in female victims. That's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
In 3 decades, there has been a 75% reduction in the rate of being the female victim of intimate partner homicide.
And
For male victims, it's about a 30% reduction, which is still quite positive.
Yeah.
These numbers, they don't lie. There's no agenda. This is how our society has evolved. It is a trend that even a moron could see. We should.
Except we have really dumb people who are less than morons in our government. Governments, I'm sorry. Governments, plural.
Right? Also be riffing air fucking guitar about this, in my view. What a brilliant job we've done making intimate relationships 75% safer for women in 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
We should always advocate to do better.
We've got our premiers saying they'll review bail laws. Why the hell did you let him out?
If
Oh yeah, she was. That's not a boss babe bitch or anything, or nothing like that.
We should always advocate to do better.
We've got our premiers saying they'll review bail laws. Why the hell did you let him out?
If
I wonder, how this whole bail thing in the United States. I wonder if the feminists agree with someone accused of just gets let out with no bail. I guess that works in California, doesn't it?
If a violent offender is out on bail and commits homicide, for example, perhaps we should investigate how bail works. I'd argue for that, rather than attempt to collectively fuck over all men just because of their chromosomes by association.
Yep.
This is simply not what a national crisis looks like.
I want to hear that chick again, though. She had a nice screaming voice.
Bail laws. Why the hell did you let him out? Our premiers saying they'll review bail laws. Why the hell did you let him out?
Because of the same ideology you subscribe to. You stupid woman. You stupid, idiotic, fucking brain dead. Sorry. You and your Marxist advocate for this shit. And then when it happens, now you're screaming. You're screaming, I don't like this. Why did he get let out?
3 decades.
Because of the fucking policies you voted for. You brain dead fucking bonehead.
We should always
Not him,
advocate
this chick.
to do better.
We've got our premiers saying they'll review bail laws. Why the hell did you let him out?
If a violent
You
offender
wanted
is out on
it
bail,
because you demanded it. You stupid person. George Floyd and all that stuff. We shouldn't have all this shit. Fuck the police, right? And so they did what you wanted to because you screamed loud enough, and what happened? Violent criminals being let out of jail. You dumb
we should
motherfucker.
always advocate to do better.
We've got our premiers saying they'll review bail laws. Why the hell did you let him out?
If a
Because you wanted them to, you stupid cunt.
violent offender is out on bail and commits homicide, for example, perhaps we should investigate how bail works. I'd argue for that, rather than attempt to collectively fuck over all men just because of their chromosomes by association.
See, we want this thing. And then when the consequences come for this thing, it's the fuck did you think was going to happen? Anyway, a little more of this guy.
This is simply not what a national crisis looks like. This is what under control and getting better looks like. Can we just take a moment to acknowledge and congratulate ourselves as a nation, as a society, collectively, for the fucking awesome job we've done, in particular for women, reducing the incidence of domestic partner homicide?
Absolutely. Yes. It's a good thing, and let's keep pushing toward zero. But zero is not going to happen, despite the protests of this woman screaming and shit, and Arcinda, whatever the fuck her name is, and all the men's fucking Ministry of Truth and all that shit. We're never going to get to zero. And it's a shame. And it's a hard thing to understand. We're not going to get there because that's not the way it works. We can get close, but we're never going to get there. But these communist fucking people will keep pushing as if we can. Not going to happen. There are weird people in the world that are going to do weird fucking things. The vast majority of people do not do these things. All right. I got to go eat lunch. You motherfuckers. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate it. Have a great day. And thanks for listening. See ya. Bye-bye. Bye.